Before he became a symbol of rebellion, Ernesto Che Guevara was just a medical student with big dreams. On the left, a young man with no beard, no cigar, no hint of the global icon he would become. On the right, the hardened revolutionary, his face marked by war, his eyes burning with ideology, and the cigar that became part of his legend. These two images capture the transformation of one life, from studying medicine to prescribing revolution. A reminder that history's most polarizing figures often start out as ordinary students, before a single choice changes everything. At 23, Rosemary Kennedy had her future stolen, not by fate, but by her own family. The vibrant young woman on the left, full of life and promise, was subjected to a forced lobotomy arranged by her father. On the right, the heartbreaking result: Rosemary, incapacitated for the rest of her life, hidden from the public eye. Her story remains one of the darkest secrets of the Kennedy dynasty, a reminder of how power, stigma, and silence can destroy a life. He was only 17, yet condemned to die for delivering a letter. This rare photo shows Batty in chains, moments before his execution in Qajar, Iran, 1869. His crime wasn't violence, theft, or betrayal, it was courage. By daring to hand a message to the Shah, he sealed his fate. A teenager turned into a symbol of defiance. His story echoes across history as a chilling reminder of how fear of truth can silence the young and the brave. In the heat of the 1949 Tour de France, every second mattered. Here, an Italian cyclist gets his chain lubricated while still racing. No pit stops, no slowing down, just grit, determination, and the raw survival of man versus machine. This image captures the brutal reality of cycling's golden era, where riders pushed their bodies to the breaking point, relying on moments like this to keep their dream alive on the unforgiving roads of France. In 1965, inside a quiet office in Huntsville, Alabama, one man sat surrounded by rockets that would define the space age. This is Wernher von Braun, the controversial genius behind NASA's Saturn V, the rocket that would carry mankind to the moon. Once tied to Hitler's war machine, he now worked under the American flag, racing against time and the Soviets. This photograph captures him at the heart of history, calmly planning the mission that would forever change humanity's place in the universe. In 1971, Michael Caine saw a woman on a coffee commercial and instantly knew he had to meet her. That woman was Shakira Baksh. Against all odds, they found each other, fell in love, and built a marriage that has lasted more than 52 years. In a world where Hollywood romances often fade, their story is proof that sometimes love at first sight really can last a lifetime. In 1917, Theda Bara mesmerized audiences as Cleopatra in a film that became one of the very first Hollywood blockbusters. It was extravagant, scandalous, and filled with the kind of daring sensuality that pre-code cinema embraced. But today, this masterpiece is lost, destroyed by time and censorship. What remains are just a few photos, posters, and fragments, ghostly echoes of a film that once shocked the world. Imagine being forced to salute the very army that has come to take your home. October 1938, as Hitler's troops marched into the Sudetenland, crowds in Czechoslovakia raised their arms in the Nazi salute. But one woman stood out, her face streaked with tears, her hand raised not in loyalty, but in resignation. The Nazis seized this photo as proof of joyful unification, while the Allies shared it as evidence of a people broken under oppression. In her eyes, history captured the price of fear, manipulation, and survival. They pulled him from the water, broken, battered, and bleeding. Hanoi, 1967. U.S. Navy pilot John McCain had just been shot down. His plane crashed in a truck Bok Lake, his body shattered with fractures and burns. Vietnamese civilians rushed in, dragging him from the wreckage, not as rescuers, but as captors. For the next 5.5 years, McCain would endure brutal conditions as a prisoner of war in the infamous Hanoi Hilton. This single moment, his capture in the water, would forever shape the life of the man who later became a U.S. senator and presidential candidate. They should have been playing in schoolyards, not carrying rifles. Angola, 1976, where children barely in their teens were forced into the brutal reality of war. In this haunting photo, young boys in military fatigues pause to smoke, their innocence long stolen by conflict. The Angolan Civil War turned thousands of children into soldiers, robbing them of childhood and forcing them to grow up overnight in a world of violence, fear, and survival. This moment freezes the tragedy of a generation caught in battles they never chose, a stark reminder of the human cost when war swallows the young. August 15, 1945. Behind barbed wire in Guam, Japanese prisoners of war bow their heads in silence. Just moments earlier, the voice of Emperor Hirohito echoed through the radio, announcing Japan's unconditional surrender. For the world, it marked the end of the most devastating conflict in human history, World War II. For these men, it was the collapse of everything they had been told to believe, a moment heavy with shame, relief, and uncertainty. This photograph captures not just defeat, but the instant when millions across the globe realized the war was finally over. Paris, 1944. Liberation had arrived, but with freedom came fury. In this haunting image, a young French woman is paraded through the streets, her head shaved in front of neighbors and strangers. Her crime? Alleged collaboration with Nazi occupiers. For some, it was justice. For others, nothing more than revenge disguised as righteousness. The war had ended, but the scars ran deeper than rubble and ruins. Betrayal and survival had blurred into one. This photograph forces us to confront an unsettling truth. When hatred and victory collide, mercy often disappears. Power, propaganda, and one unforgettable kiss. In 1966, the Władysław Gomulka, first secretary of Poland's Communist Party, stood proudly during a public celebration when a young woman suddenly climbed the wall, leaned over, and kissed him in front of the crowd. To some, it looked like a spontaneous act of admiration. To others, it was carefully staged theater, meant to humanize a leader whose rule was marked by control and repression. This surreal moment, caught on camera, reminds us that in the world of politics, even a kiss can become a weapon of image and influence. When fashion met survival, creativity became a weapon. During the 1940s, nylon stockings were nearly impossible to find. Rationed for the war effort, every thread redirected to parachutes and military supplies. But women refused to abandon style. The solution? They painted their legs with makeup, carefully drawing lines down the back to mimic the seam of stockings. From afar, no one could tell the difference. This photo captures not vanity, but resilience, proof that even in times of global chaos, women found ways to hold on to dignity, identity, and a sense of normalcy. On September 16, 1920, chaos ripped through the heart of American finance. A horse-drawn wagon packed with dynamite exploded outside the J.P. Morgan building on Wall Street, killing 38 people and injuring hundreds. The blast overturned cars, shattered windows for blocks, and sent shockwaves across the nation. Authorities suspected anarchists, but no one was ever convicted, leaving behind one of the greatest unsolved acts of domestic terror in U.S. history. This haunting image of devastation reminds us how fragile order can be and how a single moment can leave scars on a nation's most powerful street. New York City, February 20th, 1939. Inside Madison Square Garden, 20,000 pro-Nazi sympathizers gathered under swastikas, praising Hitler in the heart of America. Outside, chaos erupted. This photo captures the exact moment when an anti-Nazi protester clung to the American flag, refusing to let go, as a mounted police officer fought to rip it from his hands. It wasn't just a clash over a piece of cloth. It was a battle for America's soul on the eve of World War II. In that struggle, the stars and stripes became more than a symbol. It became a line that could not be surrendered. Imagine lighting a pipe with someone else on the other end. In 1949, New Yorkers witnessed this bizarre invention, the double ender. Marketed as a novelty, it allowed two people to smoke the same pipe at once, face to face, sharing every puff of tobacco and every awkward moment of eye contact. The post-war era was full of bold, sometimes absurd ideas, and this one perfectly captures the mix of optimism, eccentricity, and a willingness to try anything new. It didn't last long on the market, but this photo remains a surreal reminder of how strange innovation could get. One wrong step, and the ice swallows you whole. In 1957, during the Commonwealth Transantarctic Expedition, this snow tractor came terrifyingly close to vanishing into a crevasse. The photo captures the split-second reality of exploring one of the most unforgiving places on Earth, where survival depended on precision, teamwork, and a little bit of luck. For the men who dared to cross Antarctica, every mile was a gamble against nature's deadliest traps. This single image freezes the razor-thin line between triumph and tragedy in one of history's boldest expeditions. They waved the flag, but fought against freedom. This photo, taken in Little Rock, Arkansas in 1959, shows protesters rallying to stop racial integration in schools. Their signs equated race mixing with communism, twisting patriotism and religion into weapons of hate. Just 2 years earlier, federal troops had escorted the Little Rock Nine, black students integrating Central High School, through hostile mobs. Yet resistance didn't vanish overnight. This image is a chilling reminder that progress in America has always been met with fierce opposition, and that the fight for equality was, and still is, far from over.